one of the areas that Al Franken got into in his discussion with Betsy DeVos is going for education secretary is her past involvement with Republican/conservative activism having to do with the LGBT community and religious involvement in schools. And we're going to have some great quotes from DeVos from her past. But look at the tune that she's singing yesterday when Al Franken was talking with her.
Ms. DeVos, your family has a long history of supporting anti-LGBT causes, including donating millions of dollars to groups that push conversion therapy. You and your family have given over $10 million to Focus on the Family, an organization that currently states on its website that, quote, homosexual strugglers can and do change their sexual behavior and identity. Mrs. DeVos, do you still believe in conversion therapy?
Senator Franken, I've never believed in that. First of all, let me say I fully embrace equality. And let me just say that your characterization of contributions, I don't think accurately reflects those of my family. I would hope that you wouldn't include other family members beyond my core family.
Well, in terms of throwing numbers around, you said that student debt has increased by 1,000%? Since
980% in 8 years.
I'm sorry?
980%.
That's just not so. It's increased 118% in the past 8 years.
Well,
so I'm just asking, if you're challenging my figures, I would ask that you get your figures straight about education policy, and that's why we want more questions, because we want to know if this person that we are entrusting may entrust to be the Secretary of Education, if she has the breadth and depth of knowledge that we would expect from someone who has that important important job.
I think he just took her breadth and depth away. So,
yeah.
You know, the gay conversion therapy is a good political point to hone in on, because it really, people have a visceral reaction to it. Like, don't torture these poor people. And it doesn't work. And and Al Franken later talked about how even the people who used to lead gay conversion therapies, including ministers, have come out and said, oh, we were so wrong.
Yeah.
And we did so much damage to those folks. But I'm not sure it is that fair to put it on her if other people in her family gave to Focus on the Family.
Well, then allow me to relieve your conscience, because
Okay.
it's not putting it unfairly on her. We're going to get to that in 1 second. But first, I want to turn to about a decade ago, a little bit more than a decade ago. She was asked whether, and this is going to get into the larger question of public funding for religious schools, what some have called Christian madrasas in America, asked whether Christian schools should continue to rely on philanthropic dollars, the donations and things like that, rather than pushing for taxpayer money through vouchers. Betsy DeVos replied, "There are not enough philanthropic dollars in America to fund what is currently the need in education versus what is currently being spent every year on education in this country. Our desire is to confront the culture in ways that will continue to advance God's kingdom." And so can we simply rely on donations and charity, or should we try to get that sweet, sweet government money? No, we're going to go for that sweet, sweet money, and we're going to put it into private Christian schools. And then she says that it's not her, it's her family. And that documents that had been found, there was talk about her being involved in one of her family's charitable foundations that had donated huge amounts of money to Focus on the Family and other conservative organizations that pushed for gay conversion therapy, among other things. She said that that was simply a clerical error. Well, if you could bring up this tweet here from Jeremy Scahill, I believe. It shows her listed as the vice president of that organization at the time that it was doing those donations. And in fact, for many years, she was listed as the vice president. Now, it is possible that they had a clerical error where they made her one of the leaders of this organization for multiple years, but I find that a little bit less likely than, oops, I got caught donating to organizations that literally torture, in many cases, gay children and teens.
See, that's the kind of research you should do, Betsy DeVos. If you'd only studied as
well, I'm going to give that to Jeremy Scahill.
Okay.
I mean, the other quotes I found, I did some reading about her past, but...
See, all you had to do was research on Twitter, and you would have found Jeremy Scahill's report. And so it's not too much to ask to study up, like John did, to figure out if you actually did give money or didn't give money to those causes. And if you're going to go into citing facts with Al Franken, you better be careful. So I've seen Al Franken in these hearings before. And so I've got a bone to pick with him that I think he has not been nearly active enough as a senator. But when it comes to hearings, he comes loaded for bear. In her case, maybe relevant. The Grizzlies that she's worried about. Anyway, so so if he quotes a number at you, if I was in the hearing and Al Franken quoted a number, I'd be like, let me double check that and get back to you after the break.
I'd bring up my phone, start searching a little bit.
Yeah, so he has studied up on this, and that's why she was, again, caught flat-footed, wrong again, Bob, and again, not studying enough. And finally, remember, her family has given $200 million to Republicans and the Republican Party.
And conservative think tanks.
And conservative
largely,
think
like
tanks, that's
Republican
right.
conservative groups.
Yes. So she says there's not enough philanthropic dollars to give to education. So if instead of giving $200 million to the Republican Party to bribe them for more tax cuts and so they could hand the Department of Education over to you, you had just given the $200 million to education. In fact, the private schools and the religious schools that you love could have used that money. That would have been one way to help them. And that would have actually then gone to a cause that you cared. And do I mind if you give money to a religious school? I don't mind at all. That's your business and your money, not mine. I care about the public schools, which get funded through taxpayer money. So why didn't you just give it to the thing that you say that you care about instead of going and doing crony capitalism and giving it to the politicians so they can give you the Department of Education to gut? Are you sick of the mainstream media? Then I got good news for you. We're going to hire some investigative reporters and we're going to go house. We're actually going to investigate what's happening in this country and stand up for you guys. Help us do it. Go to tytnetwork.com/go. If everybody watching this video just gives a little bit of money, we'd have plenty to hire those investigative teams and unleash them on the country.